And conscious means that you're conscious of what's going on in this world. You're fully aware and awake to what's going on in this world. That's what conscious rap means. So if you got conscious rap, that means you got unconscious rap. That means you got motherfuckers that's unconscious rapping. That means they sleeping. They still under the spell of Leviathan. They still under the spell of kingdom.
Call me brother man, I'm not the rubber man. Though I keep my Nazis in affairs wrapped with some rubber bands. Running out the Ku Klux Klan and with the Grand Dairy Queen misters. Just butts of guns I'm giving. Trying to make more sovereign citizens. These minions help kill your prophets, stole your treasury millions. You heard it from your brother man. Now the smothers sell out. Sex links and K2 Kush days keep me spread out. I got the knowledge to make these silly hoes question the pimping directors of music videos. Gaylords and persons with strap-on boots with heels. Too much graphic art faces. Boobs are not real. Since MCM and Troop, they use Timberland boots to get us all caught up in fashion, not the simple men roots. Got our people on dogmatic, not metaphysic. Exoteric, not esoteric is how you missed it. So out of it, you couldn't feel the natural mystic blowing through the air like it didn't give a shit. I hear the dirty Moors dissing, cause I said profanities. A lot of these grand sheets need to take off the panties. Pull the thong out your crack vest, wear him sashes, nigga. Return to where the prophet found you, Negro. What's that, nigga?
It's time to choose a side. You're either positive or you negative. You're either evil or you good. You understand what I'm saying? Choose a side, nigga. I know what side I'm on.
I threw a Molotov at the priest that works for the beast. All they want is our people to rest in peace. No attention of allowing more stress to ease. Cracker won't go home to spread himself the disease. Genocidal epidemic kill us in high proportions. Instead of mummified, we stay boxed in coffins. Mayors attend funerals for PR purposes. Where's the police escort? He replied with nervousness. He said, I don't have those numbers or connections to have Metro Police lead your friend's funeral procession. That's coming from Mr. Mayor, black community player, no question in the hoods, dropping off boxes of weapons. Then blame black on black crime or natural causes. Plus those doctors aren't out on point, but off a bit. Natural mystics prove they're not holistic. Hypocrite oaths make your children autistic.
I'm at the point now where I'm saying I'm tired of mixing the medicine with the food. I'm tired of playing that game. Now I'm shoving straight medicine down your fucking throat, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Straight doses of medicine and getting shoved down your throat. I don't give a fuck if it turns you off or not. But if it do turn you off, then you're stupid, ignorant motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying?
Don't judge like a cover of your favorite book. Visit you in your dream can with the hook. Paralysis overtook. So shook. Stop, look, listen with precision. MC on a mission. Vision. Past senses and endless. Cypher with active Moors. Beat you with facts senseless. Have your mind defenseless when the truth enters. I blow. Reminds me of Omar Bay, Algonquin embers. Tap your pioneer on what's a man remembers. All the lies told to your mind dismembered. Circle broken into quadrants, either 7 and the center compass G between the square. Baphomet of Templars, Warlock. Call on my witch mothers to maim them. The same wise spirits burned at stakes in Salem. Torture with vagina pair survive. Bobbing for apples. Contort thumb slide wrist out tight shackles.
I always got something deep to say. Every time around. I always got something deep to say. Every time around. I always got something deep to say. Every time around. I always got something deep to say. Every time around.
Yo, Stang, turn my phones up a bit. Ain't nothing changed, it's the same. You still skylarking, most got stepdaddies like Harden. They hard in, fixed in the ways, they too hardened. Some got convictions, even if they apply, they the victims, ain't getting no pardon. Almanac is in the pen, middle finger to the warden. Free your mind, even though your body barred in. This war that I'm starting, might not want no pardon. That's what if you're scared, Stay farting. I'm prepared and handing my card in. What they wanna call black is soot. Burns bronze on the foot, sharding. Hydrogen molecule with the carbon. If you dare take a walk to the garden, send a stage for the role that I'm starting. I'm more in Black Knight like Martin. Soar, take flight like a Martian. I'm Thor, gladiator, Spartan. Still polite, a gentleman, charming. Friends like the Red Sea when it's parting. Kundalini energy when I'm charging. Like power and the force of a car wind. You know the type when you gotta keep your arm in. Why fight when you know saying no? We never ever could compare. Let's make it clear. From day one to day done, I'm here. I never fear. You never ever could compare. Let's make it clear. Been running this from year to year. I stay prepared. Top ranking, top charting. We occupy the six crates in the carton. The highest grade of the strain that I'm sparking. Up late nights, Johnny Carson. Early mornings, remember starving, engraved in my mind. Carved in the running in the past. No harping, don't be afraid or alarmed by the barking. Keep it close by a very thin margin. Shadow box with a little bit of sparring. Cage fights when you fence, then you're barbed in. No cavalry, desperado charging. Never could compare. Let's make it clear. From day one to day done, I'm here. I never fear. You never ever could compare. Let's make it clear. Been running this from year to year. I stay prepared. Clean up your heart, I'm cool. Cleansing the fire, don't burn. That's what yours don't burn. Empty out when it's up to the ground. Clean up your heart, I'm cool. Cleansing the fire, don't burn. Yours don't burn. Empty out when it's up to the ground. Ask the Garveyite and the NOI2. How come you don't know about truth? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about truth? Go ask your reverend, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about truth? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth? Elijah Poulet is the Moorish national. Elijah Muhammad is the straw man shadow. York after Malachi is owned by the British. Zadok El is on the bureau waiting for the idiots. Master of Gods is Nuwapian's birthright. Teach from Nuwapian Morse paper they want to fight. Circle 7 is the universal flag. I rep that. And Clarence 13X is in my dad. Ali came first to save the mindless masses. Went from Moorish conventions to conscious classes. Went from feathers to kookies to baseball hats. Went from Rasta to Moorish. Replace our sash. Replace the RPG banner with a Moroccan flag. Replace Ross with sheep. Blacks get toe tag. Till I see Triple Crown is a fez with no tassel. Showing temple cards as ID with no hassle. Ask the Garveyite and the NOI2. How come you don't know about truth? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about truth? Go ask your reverend, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about truth? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth? Illuminate rap and masons, rhyming Morris science, hip-hop renaissance, reverse Earth's global climate. Out the dark ages, many pages get burned without the chance to flip me red or turn. No learning, blacks enslaved by the vermin. The Moors victim to Inquisition is purging. The government violating the covenant of contract. Hip-hop general Iron Sheik, no squad the bomb track. Moors branded like Louisville slugger bass with a name not theirs, void ab initio contract. Most don't get it, cause they don't study the law, but they come from the galaxy behind the furthest star. To fight legal battles, they hire the bar. Who obtains leave cause you abandon your rights thus far. Told you on Iron Sheet 2, no need to represent. Just study the prophet and what he presents. Most don't stand for what he defends. Most elders over their mouth, they need their pens. Higher self ascends, lower he descends. Conscious without a nation means he pretends. She pretends, which means we pretend. Pick up abandoned birthrights and the healing begins. Build on pillars strong like 7 Northern
village twins. Iron Sheik 100% most are partly skin. Ask the RBI and the NOI too. How come you don't know about truth? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about truth? Go ask your reverend, ask your family crew. How come you don't know about truth? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth?
You sat down and you attacked your master teacher because you thought you heard something that you didn't hear. That's the first violation. You don't come in. First of all, you come in and you act like you come in teach, but you don't. You got an agenda.
Moors are men upright, independent and fearless. Dogmatized, dirty Moors, tongues cut out, left earless, cause they never listen. Dirty Moors, keep up your slander. Wu-Tang torture in your ass, hot hangers. Kidnappers, dirty Moor, torture him like Saw. 3D, 0 for 5 or 1 2 4. Or get it like 5 or 6 with the fez on jigsaw. Leather face in a turban, rip dirty Moors lips off. Disrespecting the mother Raz Mariah Bay. Wrap him up like double crochet, the barbed wire way. Throw him off a bridge or feed him to the piranhas. Yellow journalists more spread nothing but propaganda. Idi Amin Bey, treat the temple like Uganda. Dirty Moors like foreigners, crush the dust like ganja. Not worthy of being Moors, we call them dirty the Jesus. Solomon Seal spell command 72 demons to get you.
This is what the temple guys actually say. That Canaan land is not a part of North America. Canaan land is bigger. Yo, it's ignorant, man. I mean, come on, you talking about the same land, man. Canaan land is actually bigger than the land mass they know is the corporate United States. Almost twice as big. And if they had any sense, they could just go to Google and they can type in North America and find out North America goes all the way up to Green. But they're ignorant. They don't want to do that. They just dealing off emotions.
You might hear hoarse voices, see frog faces, and who's for feet. Demons we run with, spit fire with gold wolf teeth. Keep playing, forget back teeth. New Moors are an issue, get Ginsu. Maybe a dream visit from Ishnu, a nightmare to never end and always continue. Cold as an igloo, dealing with my trust issues through vigilance. Active Moors are militants, SPLC dirty Moors call that sovereign citizen. Lions reviews, they notice all the empty pews. Benz need gas and fixing, but not enough dues. Pigpen Bays sell you out for peanuts, claiming that we nuts for teaching birthright street level, keeping it beat nuts.
To any members of the MFTA that's out there listening to what I'm saying, please get it through your head. I don't have a problem with the MFTA. I got issues with
Teacher Kendrick Lamar, stay surrounded by pheasants. Dirty's guilty of fraud if Drew Ali scrutinized their ledgers. Getting proclamations from Morocco, disrespect us. Corporate city only recognize people's court jesters. Hand in their back, Moorish puppets and minions. Never get the human rights recognition like Moors near Virginia. Commonwealth, for active Moors knowledge, the Commonwealth. Dirties claim more, but really on the straw man help. Authenticating a birth certificate, that's not significant. Civil little more two status syndicate. In more faith, watch them two more status Indians claiming Turtle Island. Our lions so intricate.
long days and long nights. But this message needed to be heard.
But this message needed to be heard. Islam Moors, we're here. Once again, I know we did a little something earlier. So we're just going to go again. A little bit more, because we're not done with them yet. They thought we were done, but we're not done. We're not done yet. Islam more. Oh, looks like they. Islam. I thought they shut you off. I know retrograde's been going hard today.
Oh yeah.
Trying to stop it. So you sent me some information in the week.
Right.
So we just wanna fly through some of those just to set the stage. Oh yeah, let me get some. Set the stage. I want you to remember that Moors never lie to you, right? We put this one out already. Moors and Race Masonry by Abdullah L. Talib Mozi Bey. If you don't have it, there's the contact information right there. Don't be shy. Go get the book. Matter of fact, call him. Tell him Brother Cujo sent you. There's his number. Same number. Call him up. Tell him Brother Cujo sent you to get the book, Moors and Masonry. Because you really want to know what's good with Moors and Masonry. Because people out here have been lying. Lying. The Moors were the ones that copied the Shriners and all this stuff. We're going to show you who's copying who today. We'll just get this out the way. Right? First one. Let's get this out the way. September 30th, 2016. Chronicle Times. Local news. Cherokee County Farm donated to Shrine Hospitals. Cherokee County Farm donated to Shrine Hospitals. Why? Why are they doing that? Why is Cherokee County, because you know Cherokee's Aboriginal Indigenous stuff, why are they donating? Their own people live on reserves or whatever.
Right.
But they're going to take the farm and donate it to the Shriners Hospital. And tell you that Moors are copying somebody? Please. 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 Abu Bakr, potentate. Abu Bakr is the name of the Shriners Temple. Potentate Noel Plummer and Chief Rabadan Kelly Conley. Chief Rabadan Kelly. Proudly posed by the new sign on Cliff Chapman Farm, designated land donated to the Shriners. The Cherokee Shrine Club and Abu Bakr Shriners recently installed a sign on the Shrine Hospital property in Cherokee County. This property has been given to the Minneapolis Shrine Hospital by Clifford Chapman of Cherokee some years earlier. Oh, there they go, messing with Brother Yusuf. Messing with Brother Yusuf. In late 2014, Mike Pickett of Mike Pickett, then president of Cherokee Shrine Club. Now, we already know that the Shriners call their lodges Moorish names and ancient Egyptian names because they want to copy the Moors. But how come it's so hard? How come it's so hard for these Aboriginal, Indigenous, whoever's that just came yesterday? How come it's so hard for them to accept the fact that this is just a common theme? You know, Europeans taught the Moors anything, just like Europeans taught the Cherokees anything. The biters are the Europeans. But we want you to know that we, the Moors, have our own jurisdiction. We, the Moors, have our own jurisdiction. Shriners have their jurisdiction, where they copy being the Moors, that they wear fezzes and all that stuff. You never see the Cherokee Shrine, whoever, you never see the Cherokee Shrine people wearing feathers. Why are they wearing feathers for if they're Cherokee Shrine? If the Europeans are calling their Shriners Lodge Cherokee, why are they wearing fezzes?
What does that tell you? If they're following the Cherokee, they should be dressing like Cherokee. If they're going to say ancient Egyptian temple or whatever, and then you go to their lodge and you see them dressed like Egyptians, and then you say Moroccan temple of whatever, and then you go there, you see them in fezzes, but then you go to Cherokee temple and you don't see them with feathers, that should let you know something. It should let you know that somebody's playing. It should let you know. February 16th, 2011. Native Americans perform traditional Masonic ritual. Why are they pretending like, why are they pretending like they're not down with it? Why are they playing the game like they're not down with it? Telling you, Moors are the teachers. Moors came to this land, saw that it was needing stuff, brought stuff here. Moors. How come it's so hard for these Johnny-come-latelys? How come it's so hard for these Johnny-come-latelys to accept the fact that they're the ones that sold out? Why? Why don't they accept it? Like we showed in the beginning, Arthur C. Parker, 32 Degree. Go ask him, go get his book and find out their connection. Right, remember, because they'll never write about this. Right? Moors, we have our scholar that wrote about our connection to Freemasonry. But you never have the indigenous guy. It's always the European telling their story for them. It's always the Aboriginals telling their story through the mouth of some European. Cherokee Dictionary, written by a European. Chippewa Dictionary, written by a European. You name it, dictionary, some European wrote it, telling you about Cherokee and Chippewa and whatever language. How they know? Who they sit down with to find out? Probably some sellouts that call themselves Aboriginal and Indigenous, don't have a nationality, but claiming that they have some authority, and then giving honors to casinos, and then giving Shriners hospitals their land, while trying to make you think that Moors are the ones who sold out. It ain't the Moors that sold out. Trust that. Trust that. March 2014. March 2014. Oklahoma Masonic Indian degree team give demonstration of rituals. Those are the pale ones. Well, those are the only ones left. Because all the dark ones, they'd been sold out. That's how the pale ones are always on Front Street. The pale ones are on the front burner because the dark ones been sold out. They want to be black Indians and all that BS. And they know that it's BS. That's why you don't see them out like that. The only time you see them out is some powwow. Because they know that they're Moors. And they know that they sold their birthright to the lightskins. They know they sold their birthright to the lightskins. They sold their birthright to the Mongolians. And the Mongolians are on here playing around like they're the natives, because these guys want to be black instead of being Moors. And they want to be indigenous instead of being Moors. And they want to be Aboriginal instead of being Moors. Native Americans give Masonic display. Hundreds of Masons gathered at Wisbeck, St. Mary, Cambridgeshire, to watch a colorful demonstration of Masonic rituals by a group of Native Americans. The Oklahoma Masonic Indian degree team was on a UK tour, and its visit to the Village Leisure Centre at Fenland attracted 300 fellow Masons from around Eastern countries. Event organizer Brian January was fascinated by the display of how Native American tribes use Masonic symbols and rituals. They dressed in traditional costume and demonstrated some of their ceremonies. It was like a play and was quite different from what we do. No one had ever seen anything like it in England. It was just out of this world. Indian degrees. Sir, in an item on the Oklahoma Masonic Indian degree team, you quoted a comment, "No one has ever seen anything like it in England." I can advise you that one such display was received with enthusiastic acclamation in my own lodge, and I understand the team have demonstrated their unique ritual to lodges throughout the country. Norman Speed, Lodge of Equity and Appleton, number 1384, Widnes, West Lancashire.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
These are the guys who said they didn't sell out to some Aboriginal Indigenous, right? There's another one you can get. Native American Freemasonry. Native American Freemasonry. Don't let them fool you like they didn't sell out. Because remember, we have our scholar that broke it down to us, the connection between Moors and Masonry. And nowhere in here is he talking from the perspective like we're the imposters. There's the imposters right there, playing around with our birthright. Right, there's the imposters. The imposters are the Europeans. In this case, the Native Americans are the imposters because they're supposed to be themselves, but they don't want to be themselves. They want to be Masons. So they're going to dress up in their Masonic, they're going to dress up in their Aboriginal, Indigenous culture and go around on tour all the way from over here to the UK to appease some European Freemasons, to let them, you know, touch the garment of the Prince Halls and the whoever's. Liars. Islam more.
Islam. Is this okay? Quick question too, because we know that the whole Freemasonry, that's all Moor science. It comes from the Moors. My thing is, why is you just put the picture up? Native American Freemasonry. Why are they in secret wearing or practicing Moorish science? Because we know Masonry is Moorish science.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? If their culture and their rituals are so ancient and we, tied to, why are they doing Moorish science in secret? I just, because we know that Masonry, Freemason, that's more science. I'm just like, why are they doing that? Like, y'all supposed to be so-called Indians. Y'all supposed to be teepees and all of that. Why are y'all in secret doing more science?
Oh yeah, and you 22 sneak studiers back there, make sure you like. You 22 sneak studiers in the back. Just make sure you like, so this can get out.
Right. And another thing too, to add on real quick, they speak of like Moors, like we stole from the Shriners,
mm-hmm.
right? Okay. Here we go. Reference. This is coming out of the Webster New International Dictionary with references to history.
Before you start reading, let me get the picture up. Okay, go ahead, man.
Webster's New International Dictionary with reference history. India paper edition. Okay. Now under the definition of shrine, right? Because it says okay. So the definition of Shriner, it says see Shrine 7. So you go to the definition of shrine and you go to number 7. What's interesting is it's the definition number 7. That's another thing that bugged me out. But so when you go to the word shrine, the definition number 7, it says for shrine for ancient Arabic order of the nobles of the mystic shrine, a secret order professedly originated by one Caliph Alu, a son-in-law of Muhammad, at Mecca in the year of Hijra 25, about 646 AD. In the modern order established in the United States in 1872, only Knight Templars or 32nd degree Masons are eligible for admission, though the order itself is not Masonic. There you go right there. Right in the definition. In the modern order established in the United States in 1872, it told you, Caliph Alu, a son-in-law of Muhammad, in Mecca, 646 AD. He established the ancient Arabic order of the noble of the mystic shrine. Not no modern Europeans we see now in 1872.
Fleming and Sanford or whoever the hell they're talking about.
That's in the dictionary. In the dictionary, it tell you. Like, yeah, the Moors did that. 646 AD. Then United States people, 1872. Modern. It said modern too. Modern. Telling you, right in the dictionary. Reference. That's a reference. Letting you know. But my thing is, why are so-called Native Americans taking place of the Order of the Mystic, the Knights Templars, which established in 1872? Why are they taking on those practices?
Why? Go ask them. Hey, you know you sneak studiers back there. We could see only 15 people thumbs up out of 34 people on the stuff. So make sure you go like so the word could get out. American Indian Freemasonry. Arthur C. Parker, 32 degree. Arthur C. Parker. To Gajiwa Hodoyenjaye Hoskui Sao. 3 friends who have done most to lead me on the journey where I receive more light in Masonry, and whose brotherly love and affection have demonstrated to many a wayfarer to potency of the Masonic tie. This account of American Indian Freemasonry is dedicated by their friend, Gawasowane. Gawasowane. You know who Gawasowane is? Gawasowane is Arthur Parker. And there he is, European, who got his little indigenous name from his 3 indigenous friends or whatever, who he dedicated his book to. Then you see right up there, 1910. So you know, or 1919. So you know that this is right around the time of Noble Drew Ali, and they could have just said that they're Moors, but they don't want to do that. They want to be Masons.
That makes sense why they didn't jump ship. Like, they didn't jump onto what the prophet was bringing when he came on the scene, because they was being Masons.
Yep.
They knew the information. They knew the information, but they were keeping it a secret. They knew that we were Moors. And now when we showing this now, I feel like to prove again why they continue to sell out now to this day. Like, 'cause they still hide the fact that we're Moors. It's still playing Cherokee, whatever. They know that we're Moors because they, behind closed doors, wearing Moorish garment.
Yeah.
Practicing Moorish science.
It was in the land of the Senecas, the most powerful confederates of the famous Six Nations of the Iroquois. To this land in the valley of the Cattaraugus had journeyed the commander-in-chief of Buffalo Consistory with 3 other members of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Masonry. The time was midwinter in the moon of Niskawukni, the appointed time when the great Thanksgiving of the Senecas took place in a 9-day celebration. During this season of gratitude to the Great Spirit, the various fraternities and ceremonial associations hold sessions, and a few of them give public exhibitions. Not so, however, with one whose work is all in secret and into whose chambers only purified and loyal are admitted. The guide led on, and the 4 followed, 3 being candidates for initiation. The glimmering light held by the guide cast an uncertain ray upon the trail that penetrated the moonless winter night. It was not an easy path, nor was there sound footing on the trail to which was sought. At length a lodge was reached. Behind drawn curtains there were faint gleams of light. 4 sharp knocks were given, and the door opened a crack, while a sentinel stepped out to examine those who carved admission. A curious passerby might have seen by a hurried glance that the form of the lodge was an oblong, that there were 2 altars, upon one of which was placed a tray on incense and a heap of strange paraphernalia. But the door soon closed, and hours afterward, the sounds of a peculiar chant, the blend of wild forest sounds mingled with the strange rushing noise, like that of a great cataract, floated out of the walls of the lodge house. What was happening within? Is there an undiscovered masonry? What is the natural masonry of the red man? Whether our ancient American Indians in their native life are capable of becoming Masons must be determined by an examination of their beliefs. Whether they have a form of inherent or natural Masonry must be determined by an examination of their fraternities and secret organizations. We must also make this examination if we are to discover whether or not they have an accepted Masonry built up through the practice of the rites that we observe. The last proposition we may dismiss, for what means had the red man of knowing of the special rites of an order that up to 1717 was in a state of crystallization and evolution, and whose lectures had not yet come fixed? A thorough examination will reveal that the Indians had indeed a free Masonry, but not the accepted Masonry. But we may perhaps understand our Masonry better if we understand more of the Indians' Freemasonry. Let us examine the inherent capacity of the higher members of the various Indian tribes to receive the teachings of Masonry, and such of their fundamental beliefs as may be in harmony with it. With the Iroquois family of Indians, at least the sacred number is 4. We find that there are 4 basic beliefs of the Iroquois. Other tribes and nations of red men held these same truths as supremely evident. 1. God. The red man believed in a supreme deity. Many authorities have denied this, perhaps for 3 reasons. Confusion of terms may have led to misunderstanding. The words that the explorer translated, gods, spirits, powers, may have seemed to have precluded a supreme God, spirit, or power. But we may well believe that in some instances, at least the ignorance of the informant or of the inquirer, or both, led to the failure to discover a statement of a supreme power. And thirdly, sad to say, in some cases, there seems to be a prejudice against admitting that natural man can know of one God in order to emphasize the degradation of the unregenerate. But though the native Indian spoke of spirits, of natures, and of gods, those who were instructed by the sages of their race knew that there was one supreme spirit who governed and directed all others. Whether it was the Gichi Manitou of the Algonquin, Tirawa of the Pawnee, or the Hewinu of the Iroquois, the same idea prevailed, that of one great spirit. The Indian would no more think of denying the existence of a supreme being than he would of disrupting his own existence. The first presupposed the latter, and thus with the religious leaders and the initiate, the Great Spirit was called our Creator. The great architect of the universe to the Indian was the maker of all. So for these Aboriginal, Indigenous whoever's to talk BS to Moors because we say Allah, when the Masons know that these peoples had a one supreme deity. The Gichi Manitou of the Algonquin, Gitchemanitou, the Tirawa of the Pawnee, Tirawa, or the Hawenu of the Iroquois, who they say wrote the Constitution for the United States. It wasn't the Moors that did that and all that stuff. Well, if you know that you have a supreme deity, Iroquois, Indigenous, Aboriginals, autochthonous individuals, why are you hating on Moors? Why are you trying to make it seem like Moors don't know what's up? And we know that you know about Moors because of your second truth that is supremely evident, according to what the Masons found out hanging around you niggers. Morality, which comes from Moors. Morality. The practice of virtue was demanded of every red man. He must be just in his dealings with his fellows, truthful, charitable, considerate. How come these Aboriginals aren't considering the Moorish paradigm? Why are they dissing? If part of their supreme evident principles is morality, which means every one of these people have to be considerate. Every last one of them. They have to be considerate to their fellows. They have to be truthful. They have to be charitable. He must also be stoical, slow to anger, and slow to admit of personal discomfort. He must at all times recognize his dependence upon the maker of all, and was taught to enter upon no great or important undertaking without first thanking the maker for the strength that gave him power to perform the deed he willed. The Iroquois, recognizing his helplessness, without the presence of his maker, waged his holy wars against the jealous tribes about him in order to bring them into the league of everlasting peace. The Iroquois were assailing the forts of the Eries and calling out for surrender. The haughty Eries yelled back in defiance, "We shall not surrender so long as our strong weapons fight for us." The Iroquois war captain replied, "Then surrender, for it is the master of life who fights for us." And the Eries went down to a shameful defeat. So before he acts, the Iroquois chants his prayer. "You, the All-Maker, all high above, best friend of the people, we ask you to help us. We implore your favor." Now this sounds no different than some jihadists or whatever, before they go blow up their brothers and sisters talking about Allahu Akbar and I want 55 virgins. But they're supposed to have morality though. But they're going to ask the Creator to give them strength before they go kill their brothers. And they got some nerve to talk about Moors? Please. Let us not judge our Indian brethren as savages only because of what we accuse them of in war. They did deeds that were shameful, unless we do not forget. But why do we, with so great diligence, forget our own horrible deeds committed against the Indians? Deeds that their own but weakly parallel. We too have sinned, though our higher ideals all cried out of the virtues that we claimed, but in the heart of conflict forget. 3. Immortality. One of the strongest beliefs of the red man was in a future life. Call the place of that life what you will. The world beyond the sky, the happy hunting ground, or the abode of the Creator. To the red man, it was heaven. That present conduct would affect the future life was believed. 4. Brotherhood. If there is one belief above another that affects the conduct of the Indian, it is his belief in the universal kinship of all creative things. Man was not only the brother of man, because a supreme father had created both, but every animal, plant, and rock, as well as every force of nature, was believed to sustain a certain relation to man. The deer and the bear were brothers, and very near man. The trees had spirits, so did the cliffs and the waterfalls. Thus the red man brought it quite rational to speak to them as friends and brothers. And again, keep in mind, we should talk about this stuff today when we read our holy book, the Holy Quran of Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, when we read the chapter on religion. And we dealt with this same stuff to show you that Noble Drew Ali was teaching this same stuff. So why did they run to Masons to go get it? Why didn't they just go to the Prophet to get it? If Noble Drew Ali is teaching the same stuff that's related to these people's principles, and you already know that Cherokee, Indigenous, Aboriginal, Autochthonous, whatever are misnomers, then why is it that they didn't just follow the Prophet, who everybody knows was a Cherokee, who everybody knows was the vice regent of the Maison Rouge, because he himself was a direct descendant of Henry Turner, who kicked United States ass in court for their 68,000 acres that French tried to steal, but couldn't steal. No animal they're trying hard, Amor.
Yeah. We want to try the other phone? You try the other phone.
All right.
All right.
Islam. Excuse us, Morris. Just dealing with this retrograde. No animal was killed. No animal was killed in a wanton way, and every animal slain for meat or pelt was propitiated by a chant asking its pardon for the deed, since it had seemed a necessity for the hunter to have the meat and skin of the quote-unquote brother. Letting you know that they honored the animal, that before they laid the animal to rest, they said their prayers to make sure that their brother to make sure that their brother.
Yeah, I'm good now. I'm good.
All right, boy. Their brother wasn't taken advantage of because it was a necessity in order to kill for meat or in order to kill for some skin. Now, doesn't that sound familiar to halal? Now, if in Muslim culture, they're going to pray over the stuff before they murder it, then in Aboriginal culture, Indigenous culture, they're going to pray over the stuff before they murder it. Wouldn't that mean that those two things are relative? Why is it so hard for the Indigenous to get down with the program? Why are they fighting so hard? Like they're not Moors. Because again, Moors know that we're Aboriginal and Indigenous. We say it all the time. We don't fight that we're Aboriginal and Indigenous. Why are these people fighting so hard that they're Moors and causing disunity? Islam, Moor, you have anything to add yet?
Islam, Moor. So you going in right now. I was
Well, it's not even me. It's freaking what's his name?
I'm pulling up an article right now because I want to read it.
It's not even.
I saw it the other day.
It's not even me. It's Anthony C. Parker going in on these dudes right now. It's not even me. I can't even take credit. Give thanks to Arthur C. Parker.
Yep.
Oh, and Islam to Brother Alfonso, the sorrel, woo, the bomb. Great.
The what?
Sorrel drink. Last week when we went to, when we went to Ottawa last week, Brother Alfonso had his elixirs out there selling, and the sorrel is a killer. While you look for that, let me just carry on a little more with this. Then a little sacrifice was given. Incense was burned, and a gift to the spirit of the slain animal buried beneath the ashes of the fire. To the red man, the creatures of the earth were kinsmen, but in a different form, as suited the Creator's purpose, and none might be destroyed without reason and sacrifice. Even the pharmaceutical plants of the forest were not taken without a thank offering and planting of the seed in a hole from which the root or stem had been pulled. This feeling of fraternity worked out in many ways as the organization of numerous fraternities and societies by the knitting of the clan system and by the ties of a complex social organization. There were binding laws and customs that governed every social action and regulated conduct. So many impressed was Roger Williams with the kindness and courteous action of the Indians among whom he lived that he wrote, "If nature's sons, both wild and tame, humane and courteous, be, how ill becomes it sons of God to want humanity." It was the influence of this feeling of brotherhood that made hospitality the universal rule among the Indians. Every stranger who came within honest intent found a welcome and a home. There was no hunger that did not share, no feast that was not open to everyone. No orphan need fear the lack of home or care, for his clansmen provided for him. Among many tribes, the custom of having a sworn brother was observed. Each was responsible for the punishment of any encroachment or injury upon the other. Companies of these brothers often united in associations which, in no uncertain sense, were fraternities. So again, we ask the question to the Aboriginal, Indigenous, whoever's, that if you had a system running like that, which sounds pretty much like a lodge, and then you're going to talk about when the Europeans came here you brought them into the long houses and all that stuff and taught them government and all this type of stuff, then why is it so hard for these modern indigenous people who got YouTube pages or whatever? How come they're not claiming that they're either Masons or Moors? Because clearly you had fraternities. Clearly you people had a certain system running. Again, it's just the red man, sacred number 4 basic beliefs of the Iroquois, who were the ones that signed the Constitution for the European and all that stuff. The belief of God, morality, immortality, and brotherhood. Why are you fighting it? The only reason that they would be fighting it is because, like we said, these people are sellouts. They have no intention of brotherhood. They're violating every single one of their principles, because when we watch their stuff, we don't hear them give any honors to any supreme being. They're going on there, they're starting their show, playing music, talking about bitches and stuff like that. Just go listen to their stuff. You're not playing no music talking about bitch this and that, and then tell me about you honor some universal force. FOH. Islam war.
Islam.
You found the article?
Yeah.
All right.
It's in the book called it came from the University of California Press.
Oh, hold on, before you start, let me get the image up before you start. All right, go ahead, more.
It came from the University of the California Press in the book called That Religion in Which All Men Agree, Freemasonry in American Culture. It says, Cherokee Lodge noted there have been quite a number of full-blooded Cherokee members with more than ordinary interest in the mysteries of the Masonic order. Although there have been occasions where the services of interpreters were necessary in order that the instructions might be made clear, the full-blooded initiates became proficient and worthy members of the ancient order. Also, like the first modern European lodges that emerged among a mobile elite in new urban centers, the earliest Indian Masonic lodges scattered across the nascent settlements of the contiguous lands of the 5 civilized tribes, provided a kinship that ideally transcended barriers of religion and politics, albeit with particular tribes. Names such as Cherokee Lodge and Choctaw Lodge suggest tribal allegiances, and indeed, each was on the land of its own named tribe. Cherokee Lodge, at its beginning, was almost entirely Cherokee. This composition changed, however, as the individual lodges moved toward the creation of the Trans-Tribal Grand Lodge of Indian Territory. Among Native women, the movement toward trans-tribal identity was apparent in the names of the Eastern Star Lodges, which began to appear in 1879. The first was called Oyama, Red Woman. The second one was named Antec Homa, Red Sisters. Okay, now check this one out. This is what it said. More significant than the tribal composition of the Native American lodges was their elite membership. Among the 24 members of the Cherokee Lodge in 1850, for example, were a future chief of the nation editor of his newspaper, his superintendent of education, a leading cattleman, and several men who had led their people among the Trail of Tears. Look at that. They said it was the European. Trail of Tears, the European. You know, they try to blame colonizer. Nope. Among 24 members of the Cherokee Lodge in 1850, for example, were a future chief of the nation, the editor of his newspaper, his superintendent of education, a leading cattleman, and several other men who had led their people among the Trail of Tears. That's crazy, man. That's like crazy. That's like the Trail of Tears. That's their favorite story. They end up going live with it, talking about it all the time. Trail of Tears, make it seem like it's devastating. All of the craziness. They lost their land. Yeah, your own sold you out.
Your own.
They got down with the Masonic lodges and even told you. Everybody, they even the Eastern Star Lodges, they even threw them in there.
Yep. Facts. How did American Indian Freemasonry originate? Among many of the Indian tribes, there were ceremonial societies and fraternities that exercised a considerable influence. The Jesuits, in their missionary tours among the Hurons early in the 17th century, made note of the co-fraternities among the tribes of Canada. In later years, the publications of several learned societies and institutions have given us the roads of ethnologists and anthropologists by which we learn of a very great number of native societies, associations, and fraternities. We cannot mention them all, but it would be a mistake not to call attention to the fraternities of the Zuni and other Pueblo-dwelling peoples. Remember that they say the Pueblos were Moorish. Just keep in mind. These had elaborate lodge rooms or kivas, and their altars were decorated and dedicated to the powers of nature. They taught their initiates the philosophies of their respective cults and exacted certain promises and obligations. Among the Pawnees were a number of important societies, one of the most important being the Hako, H-A-K-O. The Navajos had their cults, and the Ojibwa of the north had their Midwewin, M-I-D-E-W-I-W-I-N. Likewise, the Iroquois, who wrote the Constitution for the Europeans and whatever, had and still have their Hono-Shinoga, their Hadidos, and their Society of Charm Holders, and many others. The Indians, in some instances, drew moral lessons and analogies from the art of building their long houses and other dwellings. But for the most part, their symbolism was drawn from the study of the temple of nature. They knew of no Hebrew legends or records, and the names Zerubbabel, Solomon, Hiram of Tyre, or of Aragon were strange to them. On the other hand, there were societies that used sacred words, some of which might be mentioned only at a low breath, and some never except within the lodge. Because of the secrecy and sacredness of the meaning of some words, they lost their meaning and were used. The Lodge of the Eagle Society. Sure, you look them up. There can be no doubt that certain Indian societies had secret words that their members might use in conversation or as signals. The possession of ritualistic words that belonged exclusively to the cult or fraternity were jealously guarded. With the Indians, words had a significance entirely apart from their meaning. Words were things, names were things. So deeply was this doctrine inculcated that a man's very name could be taken from him by the proper authorities. He could likewise be forbidden to utter certain words because words and names were property and might be used or shared only by those justly entitled to receive the same. The masonry of the Indians as builders and philosophers dealing with the moral truths grew out of their experiences with nature and with actions of humankind. The wise men of the tribes knew that a band of men pledged to uphold morality and to enact rituals showing its advantages would constitute a dynamic influence. The Indians' knowledge of form is proven by an inspection of their implements. They produced polished spheres, aviodes, crescents, circles, squares, circular discs, triangles, hemispheres, pyramids, etc. In drawing geometrical designs, however, they seldom went beyond an octagon. The Indian, it will be seen, had his form of the plumb, the level, and the square and the compass. I thought that stuff came from some Europeans. I thought the feathers came from Europeans. I thought all this masonry, whatever, came from the Europeans. Oh, so if the plumb and the level and the square and the compass and the aviodes and the spheres and the crescents and the circles and the squares and the discs and the triangles and the pyramids all came from the Aboriginal Indigenous people, and then now we see Masons with it, how are these Aboriginal Indigenous people, these YouTube page Aboriginal and Indigenous people, with their 57 views in 5 days, telling you that this stuff started with some Europeans? Would that mean that they're lying? Would that mean that they're trying to hide the Masonic connection? Because again, you know, we have our scholar that showed us that everything these Europeans have came from us, as far as Masonry is concerned. And if the indigenous people, the Aboriginals, the Atachans, if those people were dark-skinned people, and more means any dark-skinned person, especially an African Negro, and then Indians were reclassified as Negroes, 1 and 1 equals 2 in every language, right? It's not just limited to English. Common sense is supposed to be common. It's not supposed to be private or whatever. Common sense is public. Everybody's supposed to have that. No secret order that has a monopoly on common sense. The only way that happens is if people take that away and want you to be under their jurisdiction. There will be some who will state that the Indians never made objects that reveal craftsmanship, but that such things are the work of the mound builders. There will be some who will state that the Indians never made objects that reveal craftsmanship, but that such things are the work of the mound builders. Such persons are not well informed of modern research, for if they were to know that the mound builders were Indians and that the old-time theory of mysterious mound builders is an exploded myth. Indians built the mounds and made all Aboriginal artifacts found in them. Documents have been discovered that prove that the French and Spanish explorers saw the Indians erecting mounds. All archaeological authorities know that America had no mysterious race that was vanquished by the Indians. And everybody knows that the Indians are Los Indios, which comes from the Vatican. Oh yeah, Islam, brother Yusuf, give thanks for your dissertation. Give thanks for your Godstration. Give thanks for putting it on the record, just using a damn dictionary, that these people are full of BS. No research needed. Just open a damn dictionary. That's all. Just open a dictionary. No such thing as Indians. Every time you heard us say Indians by this European, know that he knows that Indians is Los Indios. So they're not Indians. And he knows that Iroquois is not an indigenous term. Neither is Aboriginal. And that all these are foreign tags or brands that were put on the Moors of America, who lost their birthright because they started straying after the gods of Europe called Europeans, and teaching them all this type of stuff that you already know that they're the enemy. You didn't know? Peasy, the syphilis blanket didn't convince you that these people are the enemy. Here's a Bible and rum, and give us your land, didn't convince you that they're the enemy? You're still going around teaching them stuff? And like we talked about earlier in class, keep in mind that during the time of these Europeans coming over here, we already had certain things established here. And the problem was our own. Just like the Iroquois fought the Erie and said, God help us deal with these brothers of ours. It's the same BS that's going on today. And it seems like it's a never-ending thing. Seems like it's a never-ending war, that our own would stay fighting our own. Forms of ceremonial and decorative brooches of silver used by the Seneca. Now what do these look like right here? What do these look like? What do those look like? Remember, the Seneca had these. Seneca had these brooches. Why does Seneca have these for? Why? These people have nothing to do with this or whatever. Why? Why would they have this on their apron? Why would they have a crescent with 7 stars? Why would they do that for? Why would they have? No, that's supposed to be Indian guy right there. He look red to you? He doesn't look red. Sorry, we print these in black and white so you can see. You can clearly see that that guy's a European. Clearly see. You can look at his hat and look at his tuxedo stuff to know that he's European. Hey, here's the handshake. Didn't Noble Ali have the handshake on the stuff? Is the handshake Masonic or is that for unity? Because our nationality card, handshake has unity written under it. So I think that has to do with some unity. Oh, actually, I think I got one right here. Yeah, there's right there. Where's the handshake on this? Handshakes on their stuff. Why they got the eye? What's the eye? What's the eye do? What's the eye doing there? Got an eye on there for. Why scale? If they got scales of justice on there, shouldn't they be studying, knowing law or whatever? It's a lot more.
It's a lot more. And I just want to add on too, because when you check the historical record, it speaks about Esteban the Moor coming over here with Cortez or whatnot, and he was the one to go in there and translate to the so-called natives or whatever, which we know are Moors. But how could Esteban the Moor from over there be coming here speaking Choctaw or something like that? He's from over there. He's Esteban the Moor. He would be speaking Arab, so-called Arabic. But he's coming over here translating with the so-called natives here. That would mean the natives here, the so-called natives here, were speaking Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cortez and them, they needed Esteban the Moor to translate to the Moors, of course. Like, that's his, of course. Those are your people who look like your people. I'm pretty sure you would know what they're saying. And you got to remember, at that time, we spoke over 50 languages anyway. But again, Esteban the Moor was the one to come and translate. They know that this is Morocco, man. It's too much evidence. It's too much evidence just to selling out. That's why, and it's crazy that we can go through so many different, I don't know, we know them as businesses, but churches, mosques, whatever, they all, at the end of the day, are behind closed doors practicing Moorish science, wearing Moorish garb, feathers, all of them. To even go through, I've never even heard, seen nothing for people to go in on the so-called Native Americans and them and their involvement in Freemasonry. That's critical. That's very critical. Because we know with the Europeans using Freemasonry to keep themselves in order and whatever, by using our sciences to keep us subject. So for people to get down with that, and go on that side, they know what they're doing. And it just keeps us subject because it's all a secret. They've been doing it. All the sides been doing it. Everybody sold out. Everybody. That's incredible to see. Like everybody is really selling out still to this day.
Still to this day.
But if you don't study though on your own or with a good Moors, you're gonna get tricked because the sellout is real and it's very active and it's crazy.
Have unconscious Moors called Aboriginals and Indigenous giving up their birthright because their chief leader guys are telling them that Moors borrowed stuff Masonic from some Europeans, but not telling them that compass, square, pyramid, all the stuff that Masons have were in indigenous Aboriginal fraternities and tribes before some Europeans came here. Yeah, they're definitely going back to where the Prophet found them after we're done with them. Now, the last thing I wanted to do was just also this idea that these Aboriginal indigenous people lying again, trying to say that when we say Moors, oh, the Moors, oh, those are Arabs or whatever. Well, here's an Arab. Don't let them lie to you. Arabs are dark-skinned people, not these pale people that you see in Saudi Arabia or whatever right now. And you think that they don't have anything to do with us. These are some Arabs right here. This is Arab. You know, Arab that's pale. As soon as they start talking, Arabs are pale, know that they're selling you out. Know that they're selling you out. Without a shadow of doubt. Just know automatically. As soon as they're trying to stray you away from Moors and they start bringing up Arabs and that Moors are being Arabs and Moors are following Turks and all that stuff, know that they're playing you. Because these are what original Turks look like. These are what original Arabs look like. None of the indigenous people in the world are pale people. Right? This is Arab. Don't let them fool you out of your birthright. Because you have a birthright. Whether you want it or not is up to you. But if you let somebody else try to convince you that you don't have a birthright, then you're on your own. Because like we read earlier in the Quran, the great God of the universe does not respect position or station, especially if you're playing games with people, knowing that you shouldn't be playing games with them. This is what an Arab looks like. Let them play you out your stuff. These are Arabs. Don't look at some pale face and think that those are Arabs.
Islam green sheet.
Islam what?
And we also know that the pale Arab that came from, that's modern in itself too, because once you check the history, we also know that because of the mixture, because of the breeding, the concubines, the harems and stuff like that. That's why a lot of the lighter skin is going on now. It's what we're seeing now in this day. But in ancient time or whatnot, they knew who the true Arab or whatever was. Those was the Moors, not no pale skin. What we see now, that's not what was going on. They knew exactly who they was talking about.
Exactly who. And then again, just to remind you, this is the young prince, heir to the Ugandan throne. He got his feathers up. Good distance from where the Arabs are. We just want to put it on the record just because we brought the story earlier about the African with the Moor license plate in Hawaii, that even the people on the continent know that we are Moors. To the point where the Ugandan heir to the throne, Ute Man, has his fez up. And of course, you can't forget, go back to the Arabs, get the mother up in there to show you that even Federico Bartonelli, artist guy, knows that an Arab woman looks like this. And you know these artists didn't play around. You know these artists were very precise. And of course, she has her cone fez and her hijab. While the mothers out there, there's a style for you. While the Moorish mothers out there, don't forget you can put your hijab over your fez and have these people messed up, because they would not expect that. Not going too long. Islam Moors. Tomorrow, we're going to be live with the good brother Aboriginal Power, probably somewhere around 5:30, 6 o'clock. So just make sure you look up that YouTube page, Aboriginal Power, subscribe so you can get the notification for our session tomorrow with the brother Aboriginal Power. And again, we already know that these so-called Aboriginals or whatever, they don't want it with us. But the ones who know that they're Moors, they definitely are seeking, and they want to try to know something. You know, they're at least attempting to want to know by doing exactly what Brother Aboriginal Power did. Send a message, hey, we want to try to find out something. Just ask you some questions or whatever. Oh, and then also you can look up this one, Islam to the Moors That Study. Don Marks for CBC News. What's in a name? What's in a name? Indian, Native, Aboriginal, or Indigenous? The name of the article is What's in a Name? Indian, Native, Aboriginal, or Indigenous? Islam Brother Yusuf, any closeout comments?
Was that a question at the end there?
Yep. It's a question.
I mean, if you, I mean, we all know that those are just descriptions. You know, that's an adjective. And, you know, a lot of the times what we have to remind people is we're dealing with nationality, consanguinity, and bloodline. We have to always remind people, because sometimes you'll be going in and you'll realize, like, wait a minute, I'm over here talking about some Bible stuff and something. Nope. Stay on what it is. Nationality is the order of the day. We're talking about bloodline. We gotta know that we're Aboriginal, okay, but we gotta have a nationality. Gotta have a nationality, because all that leads, just that alone, seeing those adjectives alone just leads to statelessness. Me and the Green Sheep was talking about it earlier, how basically the amount of statelessness in the world is tremendous, because, like Norman just said, we're all Moors. So, because, like, no, United States team is not a nationality. Canadian, that's not a nationality. Those are not nationalities. So if you're saying you're stateless. Stateless. None of those is nationalities. That's why, when you look at all of those Aboriginal, Indigenous, whatever, we're asking you what's your nationality. That's just like, that reminds me of the same thing when I asked the Moabites down south, what's her nationality? And she said, oh no, I'm Christian, baby. Like, what do you, like, these people, we ask them what's their nationality, and they start tribe and stuff and saying everything else that doesn't matter.
Yep. Always saying stuff that doesn't matter.
And then trying to confuse you, like your question was like you're crazy. All you want to know is what's your nationality.
That's all.
But it leads to other things for no reason. But it is we're incompetent. We've never even dealt with nationality. We deal with colors and other brands. Like 2 continents. You never even knew the concept of nationality. Don't even know it.
Yep.
Islam, Grand Sheep.
Islam, more. Peace and love to all Moors. So don't forget tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna be at, oh yeah, let me see if I got it. We also wanted to also make sure these Aboriginal and Indigenous go check all the proclamations from all the mayors that the Moors are the Aboriginal and Indigenous people of the Americas. And how come your so-called chiefs and your so-called Lotus whatevers aren't going and debating these mayors for calling Moors Aboriginal and Indigenous? Proclamation's been on the record. Never once did they go challenge these Europeans about why they said Moors are Aboriginal and Indigenous. Well, here they go. Coming to talk BS to Moors. Like we don't know what's up. Actually, just double check. Make sure they're not live right now trying something. As you know, you don't run from the beatdown. we know they be hiding. We know they be hiding. Going live at 3 a.m. and all this madness. 3 a.m. going live. Trying to pull game on Moors. Talking about they don't drink or whatever. And they're doing drunk rants. I might have been sleepy, but I wasn't drunk. You were drunk.
Right.
Stop
Right.
this. They hiding tonight. They definitely hiding tonight. Islam to all the Moors worldwide. Peace and love. Give thanks again, Brother Yusuf, for the video. Any other Moors out there? Any other Moors out there? If you're looking to get some, exposure or whatever like that, you want to vent or something like that, make a video, send it over, canaanlandguide@gmail.com. If it's a long video, you could use wetransfer.com, send a video over, and we'll upload it, especially if you're going to beat up on some dirty Moors talking crazy about our prophet or our birthrights or our fez or our culture or the mothers or whatever. If you feel like you want to vent, you want to get stuff off your chest or whatever, feel free to send us your stuff. We'll gladly upload for you so we can keep getting this word out. And if that doesn't work, make a flyer, write a book, do whatever you can to get this word out. Because like we've been saying forever, new Moors will come in with their eyes wide open, seeing and knowing. And they're going to carry out the law. When you say carry out the law, we're not talking about some constitution or whatever. They're going to carry out what the prophet laid down, so that Moors could be brought back into the constitutional fold of government, and honors to all the Moors, the 46 Moors out there who thumbs up and made the thumbs up equal to the number of people on the stream. Peace and love to all the Moors. Oh yeah, and don't forget, January 4th, Noble Drew Ali Day. Big shout out to brother Malik Adel El. He's right there in the chat. If you need some graphics done, send them more a message. Two Sons Graphics. They're the ones who did the flyer for Noble Drew Ali Day. If you need album cover, if you need flyer, if you need promote your business, whatever, just get at the more and show some support. Peace and love to all the Moors. Islam to everybody in the chat. Islam to all the Moors near Canaanland. Islam to all the Moors that study. And we're out. Peace, Moors.